Hello, everyone, and welcome and Merry fucking Christmas. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Merry fucking Christmas to everyone. This is the Jukebox Monkey top 3 rundown of our albums of the year, which we do largely for ourselves, frankly, just to stop us from refusing to listen to any new music and becoming those double denim Gumbies stood by the bar. So this keeps us young. So by watching this, you're enabling us old shitbags to actually participate in the future. So what we're going to do is we're going to run down our top 3 albums each, say a little bit about them, and hopefully bring something cool to your attention that we've been enjoying this year. You may notice that it's just me and my colleague Niki Jones here. Say hello, Niki.
Hello, Niki.
Pete is dead and indeed dying because he's caught the plague and then decided to lay a load of laminate flooring. What an athlete. So he's flat on his back and can't participate today. Love you loads, Pete. Get well soon. I've actually also got COVID, but I decided to sit on a sofa and drink Baileys instead of exerting myself.
I should say Pete has sent his top 3 over, which we have attempted to listen to as much as we can in literally the 24 hours notice he gave us. So we'll be chatting about his top 3 as well.
Yeah. And of course, we keep our top 10s secret from each other all year long. So this is the big reveal right now. And weirdly, I'm surprised we even get along at all, because most years the Venn diagram of our top 10s don't really cross over at all, particularly, do they? Tend not to. In fact, I think we've only ever had like 1 or 2 records appear in more than one list.
Yes. Yeah. Well, didn't we once do our top 10 albums of all time, and the only one that turned up in more than one was Blood Sugar Sex Magic?
That's right.
Right, shall we crack on?
Let's crack on.
Start with Pete's this year. Dear beloved departed Pete. His number 3 album is Your Time to Shine by Monolord. Now, I think this is the one you've listened to the least, right?
Yeah, this one, I have heard it, but we were just discussing this before we started. I'm trying to remember which one that was. So, yes, I know it was something big, hairy, and stonery.
Yes, I listened to this today, and
I'm going to check this out.
Yeah, it's really good. Really liked it. I tend to when stuff.
Just coughed over your intro there. It's disgusting.
That's quite all right. There's going to be quite a lot of coughing, I think, over this. So you're just going
to some more medicine.
Yeah, Stone About Tends to Lose Me when the vocalist gets a bit too metal, and this is proper 70s melodic, like Black Sabbath-y stuff. It's really like the singer's got like actually really quite a sweet melodic voice, never growls, never shouts. It's very 70s. It weirdly reminded me of kind of a mix of Tool and Fu Manchu, if you could imagine that. It's like big heavy riffs with kind of big spacey stuff with a kind of ethereal singer singing over the top. But either way, it was a good shout, Pete. I thought it was really good.
Wow. Okay. That's one for me to check.
Yeah.
Out. Hey, I'll check it out before the end of the year. Maybe it'll make my top 10. Oh, wait a minute.
Maybe. Yeah.
You know what? There's nothing more annoying than finding an album from the previous year in the first couple of months of the next year.
Yeah, that happens quite a lot. Or in late December when I've refused to listen to any new music until my top 10 is done. So
yeah, to be fair, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 2. There's 2 Devin Townsend albums that I have yet to listen to that came out in October that I found out about two weeks ago.
Appalling. Call yourself a fan.
Yeah. Well, the thing is though, right? I was waiting for him to announce them because I knew they were coming, and I was waiting. And then eventually I went, I'm just going to check, see if there's then. And then I went on there. It came out like in the end of October.
Nuts.
He didn't announce it at all. All I've heard, he's been moaning that there's a delay for the vinyl things.
So, Monolord. Good opening gambit.
Monolord.
Dabner, your number 3, if you will.
My number 3. Okay. My number 3 is Aromantic 2 by the Night Flight Orchestra.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Have
these
you ever heard the Night?
10 last year, if I believe, didn't they?
Yeah, they were in the 10 last year, weren't they? Yeah, I don't think they were right at the top of it though, because the album last, because they've done quite a few records now, and they had an album out last year or the year before, which was decent. They had a really great record called Amber Galactic about 4 or 5 years back, and this one I think is pretty much as good. So yeah, it's. I mean, have you heard the Night Flight Orchestra?
They a band I was fired under, meant to go back to. When you told me last time, I did listen to a bit of it and I was impressed, and I totally just not got back to it. So yeah,
it's very much a genre thing, right? It's basically 80s sort of pop rock stuff, like in the vein of, I don't know, like Van Halen and Toto and all that sort of stuff, with, you know, just every kind of 80s cliche thrown in there. And you know, it totally sounds like, every song sounds like it belongs on a Miami Vice soundtrack.
I do remember a lot of synthesizers from what I...
There's synthesizers on there, but lots of like really cool 80s guitar, and they've got like the kind of layered vocal thing going on, and, you know, properly cheesy lyrics to go with it as well. It's you know, it's really, really cool. The cool thing about this particular album though is that they've added in, because they've been doing it for a while, like the general pastiche is no longer enough, right? So what you'd hear is you can now hear specific songs appearing in their songs, if you see what I mean, but they blended it. So you go, like, that's the bass line from a Billy Ocean song right there.
Okay.
Or that is the rhythm pattern from an ABBA song over there, and, you know, and you can kind of you're getting all these very specific bits, and you're going, that's clearly a version of this song from the 80s, and that's what.
Okay,
you know,
it's like a mashup, but
they kind of blended it. Yeah, almost like that. But then they put their own songs around it as well. But it's really, really interesting the way they've done it, because the influences are much easier to spot on this one. But that makes it all the more satisfying, because the whole thing is done with a certain degree of irony anyway. But the weird thing is, it's a band made up of like thrash metal dudes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It's like I think it's a couple of guys from Soilwork.
Oh wow.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like proper metal guys just decided to create this side band, which sounds nothing like that.
A guilty pleasure.
Exactly that. And yeah, and I think they're bloody wonderful. Seen them live; they were great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're playing Bloodstock next year as well.
Nice.
So that's going to be fun. So yes, looking forward to that.
Yeah,
yeah.
I must.
So that's my number 3. So yeah, it's Aromantic 2 by the Night Flight Orchestra. Great record.
I will check it out. So my number 1 was basically set the day it came out, and nothing has come close to challenging my number 1. But number 2 to 10 are all fantastic and have all been really, really different. And this has been one of the hardest like top 9s to put in any sort of order, because they're just really.
See, one was set, and then the 9 was the order.
One has not had any competition since it came out. But the other ones, they're all fantastic, but they're really hard to compare to each other because they're all really different. So I looked at what ones I've gone back to the most and what ones I thought would be the most interesting to talk about. And I figured me telling you how great the new Wild Hearts album is probably not that exciting. Or me telling you how great the new Biffy Clyro album probably isn't that exciting. So my number 3 is an album called Hostages by Teethgrynder.
Now this one I have heard. Okay, go on then, away you go.
So Teethgrynder are just one fella, Scottish fella called Jay Thurley, who gets loads of different collaborators every time he does an album, works with lots of different people. And it's kind of like if a noise rock band played Nick Cave songs. It's, even though he's from Dundee, it sounds like real, like old school Americana, almost the sort of stuff that Mark Lanigan would like dredges up, or Zealand put into their songs, or like Nick Cave does when he goes real murder ballady. But through this filter of like a noise rock band with these like repetitive bass lines and these like squealy riffs that will just like go like hypnotically over the top of this guy singing in this like gruff baritone voice. And it's just a really fascinating album that I've just found every time I go back to it, I hear something different in it every single time. And it's not quite like anything I've ever heard. It's like a lot of different things I like, but nothing I've ever heard together on one album.
Mm-hmm.
And I've listened to this so many times, and it's weird and noisy and discordant and really melodic and interesting to listen to at the same time, which is almost every tick box for me for an album. And yeah, I'm fascinated by it. I need to go back to listen to. He's got, I think, 1 or 2 other albums and a few EPs. It's very, if you're familiar with the record label Sargent House, who have people like Linguita Ignota, oh, I can never say her name right, and
Linguita Ignota, yeah.
And I think Jay Jail and stuff like that. It could fit on there. I don't think he's on that label, but it could definitely fit on that label. It's dark and twisted and weird and kind of scary. And I imagine some people will absolutely hate it. But if a noise rock band playing Nick Cave sounds good to you, you're going to be in your element with this album, because it's fucking brilliant.
Does sound good to me. Does sound good to me. I've heard this record actually, and I was loving it. I was loving it to begin with. It went a bit avant-garde after a while and lost me a little bit. So it did drop down my sort of pecking order as I got through it. Great bits on that record for sure. And you know, the Nick Caveisms, that's a relatively common thing these days, but when it's done well, that thing is unbeatable.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people compare it to like latter day Nick Cave, and I dare say I prefer this album to probably the last 3 Nick Cave albums, which I know is sacrilege to some people, but this has still got that edge and that guitar and that constant pulse. It's not so freeform. It's got that pulse of a rock band underneath it that I miss from Nick Cave back when he was when I felt like the Bad Seed. It was the Bad Seeds and not just him and Warren Ellis and a bunch of effects pedals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know exactly what you mean. To be fair, I mean, I'll absolutely echo what you said there. I mean, I'm a huge Nick Cave fan, but the last few Nick Cave records, which have been reviewed fantastically, they cross the line into a little bit dull for me. They really do. Don't get me wrong. I completely respect the motivations behind them and everything, but no, they're just the patience testing stuff. I don't get it, what people are doing in it. That said, the recent one, which was just Nick Cave and Warren Ellis, wasn't the Bad Seeds. Carnage does have a little dash of that in it.
I think that's it. I think if you're not quite gelling with the new Nick Cave stuff, but you wish you were, or you were longing a little bit more for like the old school Bad Seed stuff, then check this out, because it will definitely scratch that itch. Teethgrynder, Hostages, Teethgrynder with a Y, which has basically put Teethgrynder by Therapy in my head for the last 6 days, which also isn't a bad thing.
There are worse things. Yeah, that's all right. Nice one, man.
Cool. So number 2.
Number 2 for Pete.
Peter's number 2 is Odyssey by Voronoi. Now, this was in your top 10 for a while, he said.
It was, yeah, it was for a while. This had been an interesting year insofar as it started quite slowly and picked up. So this one came out in the first half of the year and was in my list for quite a long time. But I was at that point struggling to fill a whole 10. But then towards the end of the year, it picked up quite a lot, and the Voronoi one dropped down and actually dropped out. But it is a very decent record. It's kind of like a proggy stoner kind of thing, but with more of a 70s vibe. Very a bit smoother, a bit more chill, a bit more psychedelic than the slightly more aggro punky stoner stuff that you would get in more modern times.
It's kind of like a big least aggressive, I think.
Yeah,
But then
it
they
is a
still
good
have
record,
that
though.
very deathy singer who comes in occasionally to get that kind of. They clearly have more than one singer, I think, or a very, very versatile singer.
Yeah, there's certainly a range of vocal styles on it, but I mean, some of it's quite tuneful. But yeah, I mean, like musically, very expansive, quite long songs. Not afraid to do the long, slow, doomy riff thing. But yes, it is a good record. Good record.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Must admit,
I'm not surprised Pete chose that at all.
I think when Pete told me to listen to it, I stuck it on in the car, and the main thing that came through was the more angry, deathy vocalist guy, because I wasn't really hearing it properly. And when listening it back today, I heard so much more nuance and stuff, and there's so much better Mastodon and Red Fang, and like you say, a lot of 70s influences, and it's really good album. Yeah,
it's very groovy.
Yeah, and Pete has asked us to mention that he did do a drum cover of, I think it's the last track on the album, and that's how much he loves it. So you should probably have a listen to that on Facebook somewhere.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
One of his lockdown drum covers.
Lockdown drum covers.
Yeah, no, I
so we don't need any more of those.
No, I was quite surprised going back to this. I kind of pegged it wrong, and I really enjoyed it listening to it today. So well done, Pete. That's 2 for 2. That is Odyssey by Voconis. Where are we? Oh, you, number 2.
Me. My number 2 is Fortitude by Gojira.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So that's I don't know if that's a popular thing to do these days, is to like Gojira. Are we still allowed to like Gojira? I don't know. Is everybody too sort of selling out now?
No, I think they're still in everyone's good books, Gojira. I don't think quite crossed the Mastodon line where people decided they'd gone pop or something like that. I think Gojira is still. I don't know. I haven't even fucking listened to this album, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. So I haven't heard anyone bad mouthing Gojira. Put it that way.
I've heard a few rumblings here and there. I think in the main they're still just about getting away with it. But for me, my favourite Gojira record's the last 2.
Wow.
Because they're the 2. See, the thing for me, right, is no matter how great or extreme or technical or expansive a band can be, and that stuff's great, it's all about good songwriting for me. It's always going to come back to that. So, you know, the best songs are what I'm interested in, not necessarily the best playing or the most amazing heavy thing or whatever, right?
No,
and ultimately, I think that Gojira's songwriting has gotten better and better and better. So the last 2 records for me are the best 2. So Magma and this one. So Fortitude it's really, really cool. It's got quite a bit of their trademark kind of technical playing in it, but in sort of shorter bursts and in a bit more of a songy structure, really. Okay. There's some attempts at actual singing in there. A couple of major key bits in there as well, which is quite interesting. And for want of a better term, because it's a wanky term, is it? World music, but they have gone a bit world music on this, if you know what I mean by that. As far as they've got the song Amazonia in there, it's a little bit.
More Sepultura than Paul Simon, maybe.
It's more Sepultura than Paul Simon. This has definitely got echoes of I mean, everything that Gojira do has got an echo of Sepultura in it, right. Which they will themselves admit, right? Because there are parallels to be drawn. Obviously, you've got the singer and drummer brothers, and not being American, and they kind of being an extreme band and kind of infiltrating the mainstream slowly over a period of time. I mean, there's a lot of parallels between Sepultura and Gojira. In particular, their interest in environment, right? So that's become quite a big theme. And this is kind of like their roots in that respect. So there's a few bits and pieces on there where they're there's a song on there called Amazonia where, there's a few kind of South American instruments on there, and some unusual musical passages that you wouldn't normally expect to hear in an extreme metal record. That definitely echoes Sepultura. But it's all very, it's quite tuneful. It's quite tuneful. Extreme in places. Just some nice tunes along the way. Quite digestible. But still undeniably Gojira. And the thing is, there's no other band on the planet can play like Gojira. So when they do that thing, it's still untouchably them, if you see what I mean. So it's like, it's not like they've just written some really simple songs that anyone could bosh out. There's still pretty technical stuff in between it as well. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with that record. It's just, it really sits nicely to my ears because it's a really great blend of, you know, technical exuberance and interesting quality songwriting. You know, so yeah,
okay. Well,
big thumbs up for me.
Yeah, that's made me want to listen to it actually. Gojira tend to sit right on the edge of heavy, like the level of heavy I'm willing to listen to.
Yeah,
like pieces like Stranded and things like that, obviously fantastic, but they're not a band I run straight to when they've got a new album out, but that's made me definitely interested to check them out.
Yeah, they've definitely come further towards palatability.
Right.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I mean, the thing is, if you're interested just like the really extreme end of it, I can understand why people might give this one a swerve, but for me, it's getting better, not worse. So yeah.
Well, I was the same with Mastodon. I liked them when they started making poppier songs, but I can see.
Mate, I'm 100% with you there.
Yeah.
When everyone started whinging about Mastodon, that's about the point when I started getting on board.
Yeah, same.
my favourite Mastodon album is Emperor of Sand.
Yeah, mine's probably.
I'm not even sorry.
I would say one of those two. Yeah.
There you go. I'm repping Trevor's Head, by the way, today.
Nice.
Because they very kindly and unexpectedly put us in their festive playlist that they've shared today. So
they did, because we're very festive.
Props to Trevor's Head, great band.
Yeah, I'm repping
who is that? Nice.
Right, me, right? Okay.
Yes. Is this your number one now?
No, number two.
Oh, it's number two. Sorry, yes. Two. Do it.
So,
do number two.
Just a number two. If you told me that my number two favorite album this year would be by a 3-piece jazz prog trio, I'd have probably told you to fuck off. But as
I don't know, it's not entirely unexpected.
Thank you. But my number two album is The Last 3 Seconds by Voronoi. Now I think I correctly, but I
think that's actually
a trio an instrumental trio from Leeds. They are keyboards, bass, and drums. They describe themselves on Twitter as final boss music, which I kind of love. I read another review that described them as what it must be like being the pinball in a pinball machine, which I also kind of love. But to me,
opinion that, because I'm going to use that phrase again later.
Okay, cool. To me, they sound like they should be on a late 70s Dario Argento film. The band they remind
me right up your street
is Goblin, who did like all the soundtracks to Dario Argento and Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that. It is mad, proggy, kind of 70s jazz rock.
Wow.
But it's just really, really good. It's somehow really catchy, even though it's all over the place. And that might be my brain. I'm sure some people might listen to it and think, what the fuck is this? But to me, it's one of those albums that you describe it and you think this is going to be such hard work. And I loved it immediately. It is really catchy. It's got so full of ideas. I'm amazed that a bass player can sit next to a piano player and still have a presence, because like the piano is basically its own bass part, but he really does. And when there's bits when they're playing in unison with each other that sound so fucking heavy.
And there's no guitars?
No guitars. No.
I don't know if I can support this, Nick. I don't know if I can support this.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about it. No guitarists. I mean, how wonderful, how must that be? Love you, Dabs. No, keys, bass, and drums. That's it. And it's this is one of my most listened to albums this year. It is fascinating. There's a song called The Nauseator on here, which is about 7 minutes long, and it starts off really catchy, and then right at the end it turns into why it's called The Nauseator. It just does this hypnotic, trancey thing that I believe Renfrew said he had to leave because he was hungover when he saw them live because it was making him feel like he was going to be sick.
I heard that on the right act. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. In the best possible way. It sounds like a 70s, mad 70s sci-fi soundtrack to me. And I fucking love him and I can't wait to see him live. I don't know who I'd recommend this album to. Possibly my father-in-law who listens to Frank Zappa. Other than that, I don't really know. But it's great.
Well, I'll go. Sounds like a good night out.
Yeah, do it. It's one of those albums that's hard to recommend, but I absolutely adore it. Voronoi, the last 3 seconds. Very surprising number 2 on my album list, but it's great. Really, really great.
Cool, man. I'm gonna check that out because I was hearing the reviews of it going, oh, I'm not sure about this, but maybe I'll give it a try.
It's not nearly as difficult. I mean, to my ears, it wasn't nearly as difficult as it sounds like it's going to be. But then not everybody has my ears, so you never know.
Yeah. Number 1.
Number
it's me
1.
first. Is it me?
No, it's Pete, first.
Pete first.
So,
I've got more Baileys now. We're sponsored by Baileys.
Sponsored by beer. So Pete's number 1 was Every Time I Die with Radical. I think you should start this one, Dabs.
I fucking hate Every Time I Die. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I know we're going to get tagged on this and everything, aren't we? Right. So I've just said that publicly. I love the constituent parts of Every Time I Die. And I think Keith Buckley is a fucking genius. However, that band sound to me like someone has got all the constituent parts of an album in a box and then dropped it and then just coupled it all back up together again in a random order. I can't listen to it. I know Pete loves it, right? But it's so discombobulating. It's just like, here's a chilled out riff and I'm going to scream over it for no reason on earth. And then here's a melodic part followed by a chilled out riff. And now a really loud bit. And now a really quiet bit. And now I'm going to scream over the really quiet bit. And now I'm going to scream even more. And now I'm not going to scream. Now I'm going to sing nicely over this really, really loud bit. I didn't see that coming. Now more scream. They just have their relationship to song structures. It genuinely makes me anxious listening to Every Time I Die. I can't do it. Damned Things. I love the Damned Things. Amazing band. Every Time I Die. No. But the things that I've just said are the exact same things that other people love about them. And this is where Pete's coming from. And this is what he said to us. Because all the things that make me upset and anxious are the things that he finds exciting, surprising, and interesting about them, right?
Yeah.
So this is his number 1 because he thinks it's just a complete mishmash of crazy, mad stuff that keeps you on your toes the entire time. And I completely see where he's coming from there.
So
the riffs are great. The performances are great. It's not for me, but for Pete.
So I've tried for years to get into Every Time. I say I've tried for years. I've dipped in and out of Every Time I Die quite a few times because so many people tell me they're amazing that I think I should probably give them a go. So when a new album comes out, I give a spin or two. And much like you, I just found it exhausting and overwhelming. So today I stuck it on. I put it on my headphones while I was working, and fucking loved it.
No, really?
I fucking loved this album. I am so surprised. I don't know if I
has this clicked for you?
Yeah, I don't know if I wasn't in the right headspace before, or I was listening to it in the car when I should have been listening to it on headphones. It is exhausting. I mean, it is 50 minutes, this album, and it feels like being at Alton Towers when you don't have to queue for any of the rides. Like, it is so full on, but I got it. I got it for the first time, and I'm genuinely going to go back and listen to other Every Time I Die albums, because I think this is the first time I've listened to it properly. And yeah, Keith Buckley is a force. Sorry, I'm about to say a lot of stuff that Every Time I Die fans are going to be nodding and going, yes, we've known this for 7 albums. But like, Keith Buckley is a force of nature. His lyrics are amazing. He seems like he's being electrocuted. Like, I mean, he's so angry on this album, and not in just that metal angry. Like, he's really pissed off with the world, and you can really feel it. And the riffs, like you say, the riffs, when they're just dropped to a halftime riff, it is so leagues above what any fucking metalcore band can do. It's like you just go, you do that stink face, like, oh, that's good. And I think for the first time, I just got the chaos of it. And then just as I was getting a bit exhausted, there's a song in the middle that takes the foot off the pedal, and fucking Andy Hull from Manchester Orchestra turns up on it. I was like, oh, so if you don't know me that well, I'm quite a big fan of Manchester Orchestra. Just a little one. So him turning up singing really lovely against Keith Buckley was such a wonderful surprise. And it's almost slap bang in the middle of the album, and it makes such a wonderful kind of palate cleanser for the chaos. But sorry, Pete, I absolutely loved this today, and I will be going back because I've heard this is a solid Every Time I Die album from people that love it.
Yeah, I've heard it's an all right one, isn't it? Rather than a spectacular one.
It's one of those what you'd expect from them at this point in their career sort of album. So if this is a 7 out of 10 Every Time I Die album, I need to go back and listen to Low Teens and that stuff, because this was my biggest surprise today. I genuinely love this.
I'm amazed. I'm so pleased for you, man, because like I hear so many great things about them, and I've tried. Like, full disclosure, I got halfway through this record. Pete was going on and on about it, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And I got halfway through, I had to turn it off. It was genuinely making me anxious, and I was like, I can't keep listening to this.
And that's how I felt about it. The
quality is there, but it just doesn't coalesce into anything graspable for me. It's just genuinely torturous. But if it's clicked for you, fantastic, man.
And I don't know if it was because I was just, and it says so much about just properly sitting down and listening to an album with good headphones and being forced to listen to it, like, say forced, but just listening to it properly, you know, not in the background, not while you're doing anything else. I had it, it was captivating me, and I got it. I'm excited now. I have a whole back catalogue of a brilliant band to listen to that I've been struggling with for years. So who knows? Maybe next year I'll understand Deftones. But Every Time I Die, thumbs up from me. Who knows?
See, and the thing is, it means never give up. Never give up with the bands that don't quite gel, because one day it will.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? Some music is worth just persevering with, and not everyone has the patience, and that's fine. And often I don't have the patience either. And if Pete hadn't been sick with the COVIDs, I wouldn't have listened to this. I'd have listened to Pete's review of it and gone, yeah, I don't really like Every Time I Die. But if something good has come out of COVID, Every Time I Die, I've got a new fan.
Yeah. And you know, on a related note, I hope those guys managed to sort out their issues at the moment.
Yes, mate, that sounds rough.
A bit sad to see what's been going on, and I hope they can sit down and have a good talk.
Yes. Yeah. Because they'll probably now they'll implode and split up, just as I've discovered how amazing they are.
It proves, you know what? It proves to me how lucky we are as a band to have relationships like we do. When you see things like that happening, and it's just like, oh man, if one of you guys could just sit down and actually have a talk. Yeah,
that's really rough.
He's hoping.
Anyway, biggest surprise of the year. So I
was surprised by that.
Yeah, that's why I let you go first. So number one.
So my number one is Strength by Unto Others, who were formerly known as Idle Hands. Right now, so what they are essentially a goth metal band, but very sort of straight down the line. So imagine if Robert Smith decided to form a trad metal band with Johnny Marr.
Okay.
That's basically what they sound like.
Wow.
It's like really, really good sort of gothic metal, but in exactly the way you would imagine. It genuinely sounds like Robert Smith fronting a metal band. And it's just really, really like great genre stuff that's right up my alley, being a sort of a pale type gentleman. So, I mean, it's, excuse me, it always comes down to quality songwriting for me. There are some amazing songs on this record. great guitar playing. Really, a lot of it comes down to the vocal melodies and the vocal delivery. And it's just really atmospheric, but really palatable atmospheric metal. And yeah, it's just right up my street. Really, really loved it.
Okay.
I was going to say that there's sort of, because there's some great tunes on the record, and I was going to say that it's not perfect. Like there's actually one song on there that I actively dislike.
Okay.
However, I found out in the last couple of days that that's actually a cover of an old Pat Benatar song,
Right.
called "Hell Is for Children." Yeah, it's essentially, its heart's in the right place. It's like an anti-child abuse song, right?
Right.
So its heart's in the right place, but the lyrics are so on the nose. It's very clunky. I was listening to that going, this does not fit on this record. This does not. And then I found out it was a cover. Like,
Oh, well, that's all right then.
don't do that, guys. Don't need to. But yeah, the rest of it, amazing record. Really, really good. Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's my number one of the year. And the thing is, it's not like the most inventive, the most unique thing you'll ever hear, but it is the record I kept going back to the most. It's just the one that drew me in. So
Wow.
Unto Others, Strength.
Awesome.
Great record.
I wish I had something to
one.
say about it. I've literally never heard of it. So I will check it out. And my number one album, I've said it's been my number one since April, and I've mentioned him already. And it's this album that Davna's showing you right here. It is A Million Miles from God by Manchester Orchestra. Now, to put into perspective how much I love this band, their last album, Back Mile to the Surface, probably wouldn't even be in my top 3 Manchester Orchestra albums, and it was still my favourite album of the year it came out. I love them that much.
Now that is my favourite Manchester Orchestra album.
Fair
I
enough.
love that record, and I very annoyingly got it from your top 10. So I had it the next year. So that most certainly would have been high in my top 10 the year it came out. And that was a great record.
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic record. The reason it's not as high in my list of favourite Manchester Orchestra albums is because they did dial off the guitars quite a lot. It's quite electronic-y, and I like guitars. And I like Manchester Orchestra when they're a bit more grungy, a bit more like heart in your sleeve, alternative
more
90s.
'90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bit more '90s.
And this album definitely feels like the follow-up to it, but they have dialed back the guitar. They dialed up the guitars again. It's not as heavy as an album like Cope or one of their previous albums, but the guitars are back in it. It feels a lot more like a 5-piece rock band than Black Mile did. And I'm almost getting bored of telling people how much I love this band. They're like they're like the son of Pearl Jam to me. Like, I put this album on when it first came. I was making a wardrobe, a flat pack wardrobe, and I thought, oh, the new Manchester Orchestra album's out. I put on my headphones, was making this wardrobe, and there were parts of it when I literally had to just stop and listen. There are bits on this album, especially the vocals, like Andy Hull. You wouldn't say he was classically a good singer. He's not going to be singing any opera anytime soon, but he has a voice that is so honest and so warm and so believable. And they layer some just incredible harmonies over the top of it on this album at the point when it just literally stopped me in my tracks. And it's musically, it's not as on the surface as some of the albums, but you put it on headphones and you just hear the nuances. It's still 5 people doing really interesting things. It's just done more subtly than some rock bands would do it. And it's the closest I've come to, they are the closest I've come to feeling like a band from the 90s since the 90s. I feel about this band in the way I feel about Nirvana or Pearl Jam or Soundgarden or a band like that. If you like alternative rock, from Foo Fighters to Biffy Clyro to like 90s grunge to even if you listen to fucking Kings of Leon or Coldplay, put this album on because they are spectacular and they should be headlining Glastonbury in my mind. I don't think they want to. I think they are I think Andy Hull, from what I know about him, he's quite a shy, awkward guy. I think fame would probably kill him. But they are everything that music needs to be to get directly through to my heart, and I can't speak more highly about this band. And this album is in the top 3 of my favorite Manchester Orchestra albums. It's just superb. And it, like I say, it came out in April, and my top 9 are full of absolutely shit hot albums, and nothing has even tempted it off of the top spot for me. It was just cemented there from the start. And like you say about your number 1, it might not be the most groundbreaking, it might not change the way you feel about music, but if you just like really good alternative rock songs, it's the number 1 for that this year. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. I might have to go and put it on when we're done talking about this. They are a spectacular band. Cool. And yeah, when they came on that Every Time I Die album, I was like, Pete, lead with that. Go, Andy Hull's on this song. And that would have been my segue into Every Time I Die, like 6 months ago. Because when his voice came on, I just went, that's Andy Hull. Oh my God. I knew it immediately, like I know Eddie Vedder or Chris Cornell. I just knew it immediately. So yeah, Million Miles to Go by Manchester Orchestra. Just stunning.
I mean, I've got this year. I was quite surprised to find out that Manchester Orchestra are neither from Manchester nor Hull.
No, they're from like the southern states.
Yeah, which was a surprise. And their cover of Angel of Death is strangely disappointing.
See, I will take that Angel of Death over Slayer's Angel of Death, and I don't care who comes at me with a cut off denim jacket.
I was going to say they'll come at you, but they'll come at you without their shirt on, won't they?
Yes, absolutely.
To be fair, I mean, I listened to this. I thought it was okay, but it didn't speak to me in the same way as Black Nile did, because it was more conventional.
Yeah, and Black Nile has spoken to a lot of people. Like I think we mentioned was like Renfrey said that's his favorite album, and he loves them like I love them, and that's his favorite Manchester Orchestra album. And don't get me wrong, I adore it. It's incredible, but they rolled the guitars off just slightly too much for it to be a top tier one for me.
Fair. Cool, man. Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, that rounds up our top 10s, our top 3s, and our top 10s.
And our top 10s.
All of the top music. So, here's the big question is, what did we miss? What were we supposed to be listening to that we... I mean, the thing is, if someone like comments, what about such and such, chances are we heard it and went, no, not so much.
Yeah. But yeah, do let us know what we missed out on. And check out Every Time I Die. They're quite good.
Yeah, and keep checking them out.
Niki Dabs.
Eventually, yeah. Come back in 9 years' time when I might finally get it.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, there we go. That just about wraps it up. So just to say happy Christmas and happy New Year to everyone. I hope you don't get COVID, and I hope nothing ruins your festive period. And we'll see you all in 2022 for more. For you know what the number 1 album is next year? Our one that we finished, that our producer has got and still hasn't.
We hope to see you in actual 3D real life next year.
Yes, so you can smell us.
Yes,
if your sense of smell has come back by then.